Great. Thank you so much. So glad to see you all. Thanks for your patience. Um, Thank you for sharing your lunch hour with us. Welcome to everyone to our August meeting of our Renewable Energy Speaker Series. My name is Len Luca, and I'm the Renewables Outreach Coordinator for New Yorkers for Clean Power. Today, we're discussing the clean energy workforce with a focus on educational training programs. We have two amazing guests with us today. We're going to save our questions until after both presentations. That means that as an audience, we need to be alert to dropping our questions in the chat right away when we think of them, so we can get the answers during the Q&A at the end. So please feel free to type your questions into the chat. Our first speaker this morning is Dr. Benjamin Ballard, Professor of Renewable Energy at SUNY Morrisville and Director of the Renewable Energy Training Center, where he has spent nearly 2 decades preparing the next generation of clean energy professionals. With a background in forest ecosystem science, bioenergy, and renewable heating technologies, Dr. Ballard combines deep technical expertise with a passion for hands-on education, leading programs that connect students and workforce trainees to the rapidly evolving clean energy sector. A recipient of both the SUNY Chancellor's Award for Excellence in Teaching and the SUNY Chancellor's Award for Excellence in Faculty Service, he is widely recognized for his leadership in renewable energy education and workforce development. Today, he'll share his perspective on the technologies, training, and partnerships that are helping build New York's clean energy future. Join me in welcoming Dr. Ballard.
Good afternoon, everyone. I appreciate the invitation to be here and to share a little bit with you um, some of the work we've been doing here at SUNY Morrisville. I'll share my screen here. All right. So as Len so graciously introduced me and shared with you, I've been doing this for quite a while now, almost 20 years. I've been here at SUNY Morrisville since 2007. When I was first hired, in fact, the week that I was hired, we were awarded a U.S. Department of Labor $2 million grant to start up a renewable energy training center. And I had the dean approach me and say, "Hey, what do you think about being the director of this new training center?" And of course, at that time, I was a young faculty member and didn't know well enough to say, "No, no, I don't want to do that." And so I said, "Sure, I'll do that." And actually, it's been a lot of fun. But a lot of things have changed in the past 15 to 20 years in the industry. But one of the things that hasn't changed, we've been involved in renewable energy training since 2008 when we opened up the training center. That training center is currently located in the Agriculture and Clean Energy Technology Center. So this is a new facility that was built in 2021. So we moved in, started offering courses. It's a kind of a unique facility. If you ever get the chance and you're in the area and you want to stop by, I'd highly encourage you to do that. It's got 6 dedicated renewable energy labs. You'll get a quick preview today. I've got a very brief virtual tour of some of the lab spaces to show you the training that we're doing and some of what our students experience while they're here. In this photo, you can actually see the tower lab is actually the one that's featured in that big glass window there on the right. So those are 35-foot towers, kind of a highlight of the facility, but all the spaces are unique and custom built specifically for teaching various renewable energy technologies. So what I thought I'd do is give you kind of the big picture overview of what we're doing, how the training that we're providing is actually preparing students for the workforce. We've got, we'll call it a tiered approach where we're starting out where if somebody wasn't quite sure they wanted to jump into a full degree program to get that high level of training, they could actually come in and start taking just a couple of courses and earn a micro credential or maybe come in and take a workshop. Over the years, we've offered dozens of different short courses and workshops. We currently have a number of college credit bearing courses and micro credentials that are available that all stack together. So if somebody did want to follow the sequence up with the degree program, that would be possible too. We most recently added a 1-year wind technician certificate That just came online last spring semester. We had our first graduate of that program last spring semester as well. And of course, we have two degree programs. Our Renewable Energy Technology AAS degree, that's been around since 2009. And a few years after that, we added the Bachelor's of Technology in Renewable Energy. And I'll share with you a little bit of what the scope of those two degrees are here in just a minute. And embedded into our degree programs, we've also included and encourage our students to complete an internship where they're working on site with an employer, really doing the job of generally an installation service or maintenance technician to get that real, hands-on experience working in the field in addition to the training that they get with us with, hands-on labs. This gives them that experience of working with an employer on the job site. In many cases, those internships turn into job offers at the end of the internship. And I'll share with you just an example of some of the employers that we've been working with on a pretty regular basis that regularly hire our students as interns. So to kind of think of this in a big picture, really think of the offerings that we have here as, stacked credentials. So somebody coming in, maybe they just wanted to learn a little bit about renewable energy fundamentals. We've got a 3-course sequence that really prepares somebody, or maybe retools somebody that might have been working in, say, the economic or finance sector, but really wanted to understand a little bit more about renewable energy. That micro-credential called Renewable Energy Fundamentals is a good place to start. We've also got a couple of new micro-credentials that will be offered in this coming year for the first time, one dealing with heat pumps, really training participants to become entry-level technicians. We've also got one dealing with working at heights. And of course, if you work across the slide here, we've got the 1-year certificate in wind energy. So if somebody came in and did the renewable energy fundamentals and working at heights, they've actually already made a pretty good dent, so to speak, into that wind energy technician certificate program. That certificate program would also lend itself to somebody if they decided at that point after completing the certificate that they wanted an associate's degree. All of the coursework that they completed in the certificate would count directly towards the AAS degree as well, which has a major focus on, I tend to describe it as preparing somebody to become a service installation and maintenance technician. And that's really the focus of that 2-year degree program. And then the other option, in many cases, we actually have students that'll start in the associate's degree, get that associate's degree, and then along the way learn a little bit more about what are all the opportunities in renewable energy. And so that additional 2 years in a bachelor's degree provides the opportunity to do some more energy analysis, system design, project development, more of an engineering type focus for that degree program. So this creates a broad offering of opportunities for somebody that wanted to get some workforce training, either whether it's a short-term training or a full degree program. To give you a little bit more background on what these degree programs look like. So this is my description, kind of the short 1-sentence description of what that associate's degree does. It really teaches students how to work with those systems, understand how do they actually work, what are all the components, how do they go together, and it's really preparing them so that they have the skills to be an installation maintenance service technician, be able to do basic troubleshooting for renewable energy systems. That's really the major hands-on component of our degree programs, is kind of baked into that associate's degree. And then the bachelor's degree would be paired with all those fundamental how do systems work and how do they go together skills from the associate's degree, and adds in the focus on designing systems, sizing systems, developing projects. And this includes everything from residential scale, which is really where our program started way back in 2009. We were dealing primarily with the development of residential and small commercial systems. And of course, the industry has changed pretty drastically since that time. And so now our degree program covers everything all the way up to industrial or utility scale systems. the micro credentials that I had mentioned, the working at Heights micro credential, really the impetus for this was, geez, we have this great facility for tower climbing where we teach tower climbing safety and rescue and rigging and all the things that you would need to be able to work safely at heights. And we said, well, geez, if we pair that with an OSHA course in first aid and CPR, that really is going to prepare somebody pretty well, whether they're going to do tower climbing work or whether they're going to just be working at elevated positions in a construction site. That micro credential would prepare somebody to do that effectively, safely, feel comfortable working at heights. And that's really the focus of that. The other one, really responding to what's happening in industry, is a heat pumps technician micro credential. This is building off of a relatively new course that we just started offering 4 or 5 years ago, dealing with the fundamentals of heat pumps, how to install those systems, how to commission those systems. As part of that course, we've incorporated the EPA 608 technician certification. So if somebody's going to work with refrigerants, they're required by law to have that EPA 608 certification. So that to us made sense to build that into the curriculum. And so in that course, and you'll see a couple of slides here in just a bit of what that looks like in the lab, but students effectively build complete systems in the lab, including charging systems to refrigerant, recovering refrigerant, and so on. And so in our case, I mean, we've learned over the years, and most people recognize that a lot of students really learn by actually uh, doing the work, working with real systems. That's kind of one of the fundamentals of our program. It's been one of my philosophies all along that if I'm going to train students to become solar PV installers, I'm going to have them work with real solar PV equipment. So the real modules, the real racking systems, the real inverters. They're going to install those in the lab rather than just do something at the bench top level. So we're focused on teaching those fundamental technical skills, hands-on installation, service maintenance, and so on. Of course, important across the whole spectrum of anybody that's going to be working with energy systems is just understanding safety, proper safety protocols. If you're working at heights, obviously things like being able to rescue somebody off a tower is a pretty important skill set to have. And we've also built in some additional credentials recognized by industry, including EPA 608. I've got a couple others that I'll share with you here in a bit. But and then, of course, if we were to take all the way up to the bachelor's degree, and there's some more engineering and project development oriented skills where students are really learning to use some of the tools that are being used today, which are also, by the way, changing pretty rapidly. So yes, they still learn how to use AutoCAD. They still use some basic GIS tools. Many of these tools are being integrated into much larger and much more sophisticated packages, oftentimes AI driven. But if our students leave here with the skills and understanding of how to work with the basic systems and design software, they'll have no problem whatsoever when they encounter these much more sophisticated tools that are being used in industry. So what does this all look like in practice? Well, I'm going to give you a very abbreviated virtual tour of our facility. Obviously, we do some classroom work. We do have to teach the fundamentals. Students need to understand, the basics of solar, the solar resource, how to do site assessment. And so a lot of that happens in the classroom. We use laptops a lot. We've actually got the classroom set up with additional monitors. So if students are in a design class or they're working with large spreadsheets, it's nice to be able to have multiple monitors going at the same time. And so that's our primary teaching classroom for lectures and some of our design labs. And of course, there are hands-on labs, 6 dedicated labs within the building. You can see a photo here with Owen working on, he's actually prepping a piece of high-density polyethylene tubing for heat fusion. In our wind lab, and I won't show you all the details of all the facilities, but at least this will give you a taste for what we have here. So this is our wind lab. This lab has over $300,000 worth of small wind machines, all of them donated, many of them facilitated by one of our graduates who has his own company now, who's actually picked up a bunch of contracts, maintenance contracts on small wind machines, hundreds of them actually up and down the East Coast. This lab, they're all small wind machines. And you might say, well, geez, what's happening in small wind right now? Not much. The focus has shifted to utility scale. the good news is almost all the fundamental skills, we can teach those fundamental skills on these smaller machines. So for example, this Endurance E3120 machine, it's a 50 kW machine. We've removed the fiberglass nacelle, so you're really looking at the inside of that machine. The blades have been removed. Obviously, they aren't going to fit in that lab, but that machine has um, pitch, motor controlled pitch and yaw. It's got obviously the generator, it's got a hydraulic system, it's got a fairly advanced control system. So we can teach all of those basic skills on machines like this. And so if a graduate or a program decides they want to go and become a utility scale wind technician, the good news is they understand almost all the fundamentals at that point. And then they'll go and maybe they're going to work on a GE turbine, then they will get certified by GE to work on that GE machine. So our goal is really to prepare them with the fundamental skills, both the fundamental knowledge of how these systems work, but also the technical hands-on. How do these components actually go together? How do I work on a brake system or change hydraulic fluid or whatever that happens to be? Paired up with that, if somebody was going to work in the wind industry, we highly encourage them to at least get comfortable working at heights. They might not be climbing on steel lattice structure like you see here in the lab. If they're working on utility scale wind machines, they're going to be climbing up, the interior portion of the tower, but they're still going to be using and wearing almost all the same type of climbing gear that you see our students climbing with on these towers. And so being able to do a rescue inside of a tower that's 300 feet tall takes a lot of the same skill sets that it would to rescue somebody off a 35-foot tower in our lab. So in addition to there are actually 3 towers in this lab, all 35 feet tall. We also have an outdoor tower that's dedicated specifically for training purposes. So that's an 80-foot tower. So it gives them a little bit of a sense of what's it going to be like once you get a little further off the ground. And for those of you that haven't climbed a tower that's 80 feet tall, it actually looks a lot like this one that's pictured here in the center. That tower moves quite a bit, actually. Once you get to the top, when the wind blows, the tower moves. If somebody else is climbing on the tower moves. So you get a feel for what it's like to be inside of or on a moving structure. And that most definitely occurs on utility scale wind machines as well. That whole 300+ foot tower moves. In addition to wind, of course, we've got solar. This is a few shots of our indoor lab. This one actually has 3 different roof sections. There's an asphalt shingle roof in the background. The middle one is a standing seam roof. And then the one that students working on here, this one's actually a corrugated metal roof. And the purpose of that is just to give students some experience, one, working on a roof. Not all solar today is being installed on roofs, obviously. But it gives them a taste for what it's going to be like working on a roof. Sometimes we got students who've never actually been on a roof before. But then the main purpose of this whole lab is give students an experience working with all the real components in a system. So they're going to work with solar PV modules, same modules that they might be installing in the field, the racking system, all of the balance of system components, so disconnects, the inverter, etc. So they're going to get experience building 5 different systems in this lab, including the pole mounted one that's pictured here and then the ground mount that's on the right-hand side. And we've got systems that run from basically a standard 240 volt typical residential system all the way up to 480 volt 3-phase system. In addition to the indoor lab, we've got the outdoor array. So this is roughly an 87 kW array. It's actually two different configurations, 2 different topologies. So the one closest in the front of the screen here, so this is a single axis tracker. And so that system is designed so that it basically follows the sun across the sky from facing east in the morning to west in the afternoon. And then the fixed array facing solar south is the other array there. And so the purpose for this was, one, it produces power and offsets a large proportion of the energy used for our building. And then the other purpose, of course, is we can use that as a teaching array. And so for just as a quick example, we'll give them the system drawings for this array. Here's how it was designed. Have them do a walkthrough and identify, is this actually how it got built? Are there any potential electrical code violations? Or are there safety issues or maintenance issues that need to be addressed? So it gets used for all of those purposes. For heat pumps, Again, real quick tour through the labs here, but our students install several different air source heat pumps, including mini splits, multi-splits, air-to-water units, air-to-air units, as well as ground source heat pump systems. Again, we have them build and design the whole system, and they do everything from the electrical to the refrigerant lines to the plumbing, if it happens to be a hydronic connected to a hydronic heating system. And they fully commission the systems and do some basic performance testing on them once they're commissioned. And then when all that's done, they decommission the system. And last kind of representative slide of what happens when students choose to stay for the bachelor's degree. They do more of that engineering type of work. So they're doing system sizing, site selection, project development type of work. And we've worked with several different companies where our students have actually taken real data collected from local projects that are in the works and actually did some of the siting for those as part of the courses that they've taken. And so they've done that both for solar and for wind projects. Just as a representative kind of example of some of our partners, Avangrid has actually been a good employer for our students. So the Hardscrabble Wind Farm, I think, has 4 different technicians that are all graduates of SUNY Morrisville working there today. I have one student out on internship with them currently, finishing up his summer internship. Nichols Energy Solution out of Syracuse, I'll give them a shout out because they've hired both interns and graduates our program pretty consistently over the last 10 plus years. Stork LLC, so Ryan Stork actually started this company. He's actually got a couple of divisions, one dealing with project development and then one dealing with small wind maintenance. So he's got all these maintenance contracts. He pretty regularly hires our students as interns or provides that first job in wind, working on small wind. A lot of our students that do that end up in the utility scale wind eventually. We've also got the National Oil Heat Research Alliance. We've had students do internships with them. And then NP Environmental is one of the local companies doing heat pump installations, both geothermal and air source heat pumps. So where do our students end up? And I know I'm getting close on time here, so I'll try to wrap this up. Most of our, and this is based on a survey that I conducted in 2024 and supplemented a little bit with some information from our graduates from 2025. I still have to add some from 2026 here. But based on the 27 students or graduates that responded, over 40% of them, their first jobs were in solar. And you can see on the list on the left, a large proportion of those got their first job as a technician. But we also had some coming right out of their bachelor's degree, went right into project management and design positions as well. And this has changed or is slightly changing. We're seeing more students now getting jobs in the HVAC industry doing heat pump and heating system and cooling system type of work as well. As a wind tech, I've just given you, a few different examples here. So a bunch of our students have started out in small wind. If you look at the names and follow the names, a lot of those names pop up down here under industrial wind for onshore. They start with small wind, oftentimes with Ryan's company, and then end up working for somebody like Avangrid for large scale, utility scale wind. We've got one graduate, Jerry, who he's actually working as a commissioning technician for offshore wind. He was one of the first hires from Ørsted. We have another student. Her first job was a fleet support specialist for both onshore and offshore utility scale wind. And then we got several students that are doing project development work as well, or graduates that are doing project development work for wind. This is actually not fully up to date at this point because several of these graduates have moved on to some other positions. But 2 years ago, I think it was, we had a whole team of graduates from our program that were working for New Leaf Energy, doing large scale solar, large scale wind, large scale battery storage projects, as well as some EV charging projects. And then just a quick example here. So we've got one of our graduates. So Steven started out as a geothermal technician right out of college, installing and commissioning systems. So what's the bottom line? Well, for our students, as you saw, over 40% have gotten jobs in solar. 48% received more than one job offer based on that survey that we did with the students. And maybe the more telling part here is average salary for students who had graduated 2 to 3 years prior from their starting salary to when they did the survey, they had on average about a $34,000 increase in pay. And in large part because they got promoted very quickly because they were very well prepared. They understood the systems, they understood how they worked, they were able to do design, they were able to do project development. And with that, maybe only a couple minutes over. All right. I'd be happy to answer questions at the end. And there's my contact information, my colleague, Morgan Nowak, and Sam Doubleday as well. So feel free to reach out to any of us if you have questions or want to schedule a visit at some point.
Outstanding. Thank you so much, Dr. Ballard. I know that you're very generous with your visitors. Lisa Marshall and I have come to visit you and your program, and uh, it's just delightful to see all the students. The day we got to visit was new student visiting day, so everything was very active and very welcoming. So we do have some questions in the chat, but I also have some questions in addition to that, and we're just going to have to be patient with those until for the Q&A.
All right. Sounds great.
So our next speaker is Dr. Aloja Airewele. He's the Director of Energy Programs at Cornell Cooperative Extension of Tompkins County, where he leads initiatives that connect workforce development with New York's clean energy transition. As the driving force behind the Energy Warriors program, Dr. Airewele has developed innovative partnerships that prepare individuals for careers in energy efficiency, building electrification, and the broader clean energy economy, with a strong focus on expanding opportunity for individuals facing challenges entering the workforce. In 2024, his leadership in advancing equitable climate solutions was recognized by the New York Times, which honored him as a climate-forward changemaker. Through his work, Dr. Airewele continues to demonstrate how workforce development can strengthen communities while accelerating the transition to a more sustainable energy future. Today, he'll share how the Energy Warriors program is building New York's clean energy workforce and creating pathways to a high-quality careers in the growing clean energy sector. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Airewele.
I'm unmuted, right? You can all hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Well, actually, I decided, why don't I share what has been well written about Energy Warriors? And I want to first just thank Professor Ballard for that wonderful presentation. And as a matter of fact, one of the connections that we do with Energy Warriors is to refer some students or graduates to what we call advanced training or more opportunities. One of the graduates that we had on July 17th is actually considering coming to SUNY Morrisville. So just wanted to let you know. And in the past, we have brought students from the New Roots Charter School to go through your facility, and Sam Doubleday has been very, very helpful. So I want to welcome everyone to this quick presentation. My name again is Aloja Airewele, and believe it or not, I trained as a physician. I am not a workforce guru. I trained as a physician, and then I'm also a pastor. But what brought me to this work was the fact that in pursuing dignity, both communities and individuals have to find meaningful work in areas that challenge them the most. And as far as I'm concerned, for my generation and perhaps your generation, climate change is a monumental challenge. But Energy Warriors started with the work of a state judge, a retired state judge, Marjorie Oates, who you can see in this picture. And I can add the link to our website later on. But she was the one who decided that it was best to bring individuals who were facing challenges, justice involved, coming from schools that were deficient, and ending up with the juvenile detention centers, that if we could find something that was meaningful to them, that allowed them to receive knowledge, skills, and community connections in order to find meaningful employment, that could actually help. So in that way, we started the Energy Warriors program in OCFS facilities. But in 2020, when COVID hit, it was also a time to reflect. And working here in Ithaca, New York, where we have the city's Green New Deal that was approved, we've decided to bring it and make it a community workforce program. And Energy Warriors is located within Cornell Cooperative extension of Tompkins. And also, we're fortunate to be working with the smart communities, including the NYSERDA Clean Hub, which covers the whole of the Southern Tier region. I'm a storyteller, so I want to tell you a quick story. Many years ago, was the saying storytelling, once upon a time in a large forest in Eastern Africa, there was a huge fire. And this forest was inhabited by lions, by elephants, by birds of all colors, by alligators, you name it, if you've been to a safari. But there were also hummingbirds, and the fire drove out all of the inhabitants of this massive forest. And people noticed, the animals noticed, they noticed a hummingbird going with his beak to the stream, dip it in, and then try and drop it on this massive fire. And they were all laughing and ridiculing it and saying, what is this? Well, the hummingbird said this: I'm just doing my part. So Energy Warriors is designed to just do our part. Our part is to help individuals, come into a training program that will allow them to engage in their communities, provide work that is dignifying, and also build communities that are climate resilient. That is our vision. Our vision is to provide a clean workforce program that will allow individuals to work in their communities and provide resources for their communities to be climate resilient. We are all very familiar with the challenges that are now facing us as New York struggles to transition to clean energy economy. Some years ago, we were more hopeful, but we continue to face challenges. But nevertheless, we do have the vision of transitioning to a more sustainable future, because the status quo, it's not sustainable. We cannot pass this on to our children or grandchildren. And for the whole of the state, as well as Southern Tier, what we find is that many residents face barriers to employment. Our program targets those who are coming from disadvantaged communities and those who have been historically marginalized, and also those individuals who, because of their economic status, they are the same individuals who share a disproportionate burden in environmental degradation. So we reach out to those individuals, trying to make them, become part of this workforce. And we've been told that employers struggle to find qualified workers. So Energy Warriors is created to bridge this gap by connecting people to opportunity while meeting workforce demands. What do we do? I'll let that speak for itself. But we serve individuals who come from these communities, low income, veterans, young adults, and women and people of color, and others who are facing employment barriers. A few years after COVID, we actually noticed an increase in applicants who had good education, but they just did not have the opportunity because of COVID to be employed in a place where they could have a resume that looked full. There were gaps in their resume. And also, these individuals were struggling with a sense of dislocation and despair. That was unique. So Energy Warriors, as a program that provides environmental literacy and also skills and certification, we came to this understanding that the best way to actually serve individuals is to provide a program that works towards wholeness. And I'm going to talk about that in a few minutes. In the past few years, we've graduated about 45 individuals, and these individuals have earned what we call environmental specialist credentials, because in the classroom we use a curriculum that is federally recognized, the Root of Success, curriculum. But we fuse that with other things. We take individuals through OSHA 10. We don't do 30, but we have now decided to do both the general and the construction because of some work requirements that some of our trainees faced while applying for jobs. And we also root individuals in the building science principles. So they take the first stage of the BPI, and then we have a partner that we've worked with since 2015. That's the Nice Weather Weatherization Training Program, which is located in Syracuse. So the way our program is designed is that we bring in individuals after interviews and other things, an assessment to see if they'll be a good fit. Not every person who is looking for a job or workforce training actually will fit our program. And in the last few months, we have discovered that we don't have enough space for all the people who are interested. But once we bring them in, it's a 12-week program, and we pay stipend for all those 12 weeks, of course, based on attendance. The reason that we pay stipend is because we know the struggles that individuals who are trying to get skills, gain skills, receive resources to find a job face. Some of the times they may receive public benefits, but that's usually not enough. So the $250 that we pay weekly is attendance-based. It's not enough, but at least it does help to incentivize attendance in our classrooms. And all of the training materials are paid for. The OSHA 10, the Root of Success workbooks, and registration as a pre-apprenticeship program, all of those are paid for. And transportation, which I'll talk a little bit about. We provide, breakfast, and I'll be happy to tell you that I still think we make the best coffee in the southern tier. If you've ever been to our classroom, it's not a boast. The only way you can find out is you have to visit our classroom. We pride ourselves in never, presenting to trainees what we ourselves will not partake of. I want to talk a little bit about the term holistic. We take that very seriously. I have been to many training centers, and I've attended a lot of technical training workshops, very highly informative, with a lot of gadgets and state-of-the-art training resources. And I have observed, just by watching, that individuals do best when they learn within a dignified space. Let's talk about individuals who we say come from disadvantaged communities. What do they usually struggle with the most? It's not so much knowledge. It is a sense of the lack of self-esteem, or that they are valuable members of the community, because that's how they are treated. We say they are marginalized. Marginalized by what and for what? is that they are not regarded as valuable members of the community. So when individuals like that come into a training program, the knowledge is not their biggest struggle or even the skills. It is whether they can locate themselves within this entity, this reality, receive the knowledge, the skills, and actually contribute to the community. So we take the professional and personal development very seriously. Actually, that's the part that I teach on Fridays. And it includes, exploring themes of creativity, working towards excellence, of taking yourself seriously, of thinking of what's your community. If you have harmed your community, is there something you can do to begin to repair that community? And then we make it easy for individuals to receive transportation assistance. We take them to a lot of their training sites that they need to visit. We make available resources for resume development, interview preparations. We do a lot of mock interviews. And we have just recently reclassified one of our staff members to be a resource navigator. He's finishing his MSW, so he does a lot of one-on-one. We provide the teaching space to be like a community. So where these individuals are trained and they practice what they learn, but more than anything is building the community. Because their role is to, in turn, provide resources for their communities to be whole and work towards resilience, climate resiliency. In the conversations that I personally have witnessed regarding this climate change debate, whether we are denying or affirming it, it comes down to this. Whether we as individuals are going to die as fools, or whether we're going to use our heads, our creativity to solve problems that if we put our minds to it, we can. The Industrial Revolution was something created by human beings to ease the burden of work. We found ways to, unload the back-breaking, work to either, to machines and engines. But it just in the process, we started relying on energy source that is destroying us. If we put that same creativity in place and acknowledge that we want to pass on a better environment to our children, there's a lot that we can do. So I really don't argue much with people who say they don't believe in climate change. I say to them, you don't need it for baptism. You don't need to believe in it. I have never seen hurricanes skipping a house saying, oh, this person doesn't believe in climate change, so I'll skip his house. This person doesn't believe in this, so I'm not going to touch him, but I will touch the homes of those who believe in climate change. No, actually, the states in the US that are they are mostly resistant towards this whole idea of green energy, clean energy, climate change, they've been devastated by unspeakable horrors of hurricanes and other things. So in a sense, we will have to work with our fellow citizens to be able to save ourselves. We do have key partners in this work. We can't do it alone. Actually, every other month we have a meeting that is called the community. It's workforce partnership that we is the career pathways project that we do, and it is to link hands with other members of the community who are doing their own part. Remember I told you about the hummingbird, who are doing their own part. And so we work with Cornell Cooperative Extensions across the Southern Tier, Tompkins Workforce New York, nice weather, and all of the stuff that are listed here. And I think my time is about to run out. But we do this and not in competitive mode. We do it in order to maximize our resources, knowing that not one of us has enough. It was good to hear, Professor Ballard talk about what SUNY Morrisville is doing. but I was also looking at the list of partners that he listed. We need all of these entities to work together, not in a competitive mode, but in a cooperative, collaborative mode, and that has helped us big time. And this year, we see that our partners helped also create more training pathways and providing paid work experiences for our trainees, and also doing some community projects. Later this fall, Finger Lakes Renewable, that is a woman-owned business, will be installing solar panels at GIAC, that's the Greater Ithaca Activity Center. And the way it is done is a collaboration between the City of Ithaca, Cornell Cooperative Extension by Energy Warriors, and then, of course, this employer who will take on 3 to 4 graduates of Energy Warriors on a paid on-the-job program. So we feel very fortunate that this is what it is. And I'm going to stop sharing. I'm hoping that there'll be more time for you to ask me questions. But I am happy that we have this opportunity to speak. And my last comment is that it takes good people to do good things. None of us must ever underestimate the power of good things, the power of light. So whatever we're doing, whether it's bringing this together in order to assure ourselves that we're not on the wrong path, it is good. Whether we are training, whether we are, providing employment, I just want to encourage every one of us in the face of despair and, just a very aggressive pushback from the federal government. No human being is immortal. People come, people go. Epochs come and go. But one thing remains: light always conquers darkness. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much for your presentation. There's so much in all the things that both of you have presented, and we just really appreciate the time that you've both taken to visit with us today and tell us about these opportunities for growth for the next generation. Let's start with the question that was placed in the chat. Our chat has been notably quiet, but it's not too late for people to ask things. And I think that it may have been something that was addressed. I'm just looking through the chat. Across all of SUNY, how many students can be trained per year?
Well, I can take a stab at it. I will start with a disclaimer and say I don't really know the total number across all of SUNY. For our programs here at SUNY Morrisville, if we're talking degree programs, we have capacity for about 30 students in each cohort. If we included short-term training, that number could probably double. I would say right now, incoming class for the fall, we have 21 students. That's actually the largest cohort that we've had in the last 7 or 8 years, I think. So technically, we're still under our capacity of what we could be offering and training. SUNY's made a concerted effort to do more short-term micro-credential type of training. I think if you took all of the renewable energy, clean energy, or affiliated degrees, including things like HVAC, electrical, building performance, and that sort of thing, you're probably looking at something in the order of 1,000 to 2,000 students, maybe a little bit more in degree programs, and probably double that if you were to include micro-credentials and offshore wind training. So again, that's kind of my grab a number out of the sky. But you're looking at a few thousand students easily that could be trained in clean energy every year just through SUNY.
Could I ask you a follow-up question about your recruitment? So most of your students, I think, are drawn from the area. Do you work with, for example, high schools or other community outreach programs. Um, I think some of us might have some questions because even though we know that the majority of New Yorkers across the state support clean energy, sometimes there are pockets of resistance to employment opportunities in clean energy. And a young person might come from a household where there um, is some resistance, although they have a personal interest in it. Do you see that happening and how do you resolve it? And I'm proud of seeing your numbers growing. You're doing something right. What's your secret?
If I knew the answer to the secret, we would keep doing it. Actually, honestly, I think um, part of it is we've been able to hire a full-time and a part-time person to do outreach in high schools and BOCES and career fairs to get the word out, so to speak, about our program. The one unique thing about our cohort coming in this year, um, 12 of the 21 students are students of color. And for us, that's pretty remarkable because in previous years, we might have a couple. And corresponding with that, about half of the cohort is coming from downstate as well. So something happened this past year, and I think it might have been Sam and Jeremy getting out there and talking with people. But it's encouraging to me to see that we're drawing a different cohort than what we've seen in the past. And we're hoping that cohort will come in and kind of build their community and feel like they're welcome here. Because as Aloja was saying, that's a big part of it is how do you build that community or how do you get your students to learn how to build a community? Uh, I don't know. I rambled a little bit there. I don't know if I answered all of your question, Len.
No, it's lovely. Thank you so much. Um, Dr. Airewele, I'd like to ask you some questions. I share a lot of your interests in Ithaca and the problems for Ithaca, and I appreciate you expressing that this is a burden borne by most of the southern tier. Broome County is one of the more impoverished communities um, in all of New York State. And so there is a tremendous need. And also, I'm not sure if that is people are sufficiently aware of the types of opportunities that are available for increasing this workforce. Um, Clearly, the things you've accomplished have been not just admirable, but resoundingly successful in changing people's lives. How could we support you in helping expand your program?
Well, thank you. I would say first, I have to be grateful to many of the organizations, some of you represented here. I see my good friend Lisa and all of them. They're already spreading the good word and, in many ways advocating for us. So we are expanding to Elmira, Shamal County, and
Mhm.
we found the same level of collaboration that is coming from the community college, and we are now just trying to get some funding from Cornell Foundation. But I think what you so continue to invite us into spaces where we can speak, also to recruit, because most people are not aware of these opportunities for us to train. And when we talk about what's going on in Elmira, we do have some funding to be able to actually bring people into training. So some of them might live in Corning, and we think we'll be able to bring them there. So more than anything, if you can share with us, those of you who are here, we're already well connected with SUNY Morrisville. Sam Doubleday has been very good to us. So we want to continue to make those partnerships. So bring us to the spaces where you have influence to do outreach. Money works, but money is not everything. Influence, it's even much better. So any which way you can spread the word and bring us into those spaces, we would appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. Um, Larry Evans just dropped a long question in the chat that we don't have time to address. But it's about the motivation of students. Are they interested in climate change or are they more motivated by close environmental concerns, or is it practical job opportunities? And I would say, of course, these are not mutually exclusive in any way, and that people who are suffering most from climate burdens are more aware of them. Could you both pick that up just a little bit for the proportion of students who are motivated in your classes? What are the things that have driven them to decide to build a career in this area?
I would say all of the above, all of the above, all of the above. Not many of them come as crusaders saying, I want to save the planet, but it's something at the back of their mind. If you cannot pay your bills, if you cannot, put a roof over your head, you're not going to be thinking of saving the world. But they come, and when they're in the class, you're shocked that they have been thinking about this. They just felt powerless. What can I do? And then realizing they have the agency, I think has been one of for me, that was a better outcome than even getting a job. I know if they want to get a job, but the fact that they can do it, they can do some things.
Yeah, I would kind of echo that and say it's probably a bit of all of those things. Um, there are certainly a few students every year that come in primarily because they want to save the planet, or that climate change is the motivator. But for a large majority of them, they recognize that, geez, I could do that and I could make a good living working in the clean energy sector.
That is great. Thank you so very much. Lisa, we have 30 seconds. Lisa?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Um, it's so nice to see you, Ben. I was just thinking about when Dartmouth College did a great job recruiting downstate students of color to come to Dartmouth, but then it turned out there was no barber or hairdresser in town who knew how to do black hair, as an example of how unwelcoming the atmosphere was once people got there. So just a question about what preparation there is in your department and the faculty to, make those students feel more at home in terms of the things that they might need, like hair.
Well, the good news is the campus consistently, or well, almost since I've been here starting in 2007, has had a pretty large proportion of our students come from downstate. So I think most people would be surprised if they came to this small rural campus up in central New York to see how many students of color actually come to SUNY Morrisville. So I don't think they're going to feel unwelcome or, alone, so to speak, because, outside of our program has been predominantly, white male students. But if you look at those, across the spectrum on campus, that's not necessarily the case. So hopefully we can create that welcoming environment for them. I mean, we're going to do everything we can as faculty. Of course, being the old white guy, I'm probably not the right voice necessarily to do that, but I will have my open arms, so to speak, an open door, and hopefully they can feel that they're welcome here.
Thank you so very much. And a
Right.
big thanks to both of our speakers for all that they've done to invest in the future of the next generation and to build a brighter future for all of us. I just want to thank our speakers again, and big round of applause. Thank you all. And just as another reminder, our next presentation in the Renewable Energy Speaker Series is Monday, September 14th. Thank you so much. We look forward to seeing you all again soon.
Take care, everybody.